The people in your room don't have to have the same values as you. This is really important. They don't have to have the same values. They just can't have dissonant values, incongruent values. You want people into your life who have resonant or congruent values that allow you to get along. You don't have to be the same, but you got to be able to get along with these people in one way or another. And I love this idea of resonance and dissonance, and I'm not a musician, but I've seen this happen. Two pianos, side by side, two people sitting at the pianos. The first piano, the person at the piano hits the middle C key. The second piano, person sitting at the second piano, presses the sustain pedal of the second piano without hitting a key, and the second piano hums without hitting a key. That is resonance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you want in your life. You want resonance. That's what you want in your chapter. You want resonance. You don't want, everyone doesn't have to be the same, but they've got to be able to resonate with each other, to work with one another. That is so incredibly important. And dissonance is easy. If I had a chalkboard up here, I could just go, and you all go, oh, that's dissonance, right? That's like, well, no, I just don't want that around me at all. So this whole idea of resonance and dissonance is what you want to look for in terms of the values you create, what you train your doorkeeper on, your conscious and subconscious mind, in saying, yeah, this person's values, they resonate with me. They're congruent with what I believe, what I think, how I want to show up in the world. And so you have to have this doorkeeper that you train. Otherwise, your door is just a revolving door that no one can exit. People coming in, that was your life as a kid, right? You had no choice. People were coming in, you weren't leaving. It was a door where anyone could show up. Your family, you had no choice in your family. The people that your parents allowed into your life, you had no choice on that. And so you don't want to be in that. So you're an adult now. You don't have to be in that situation. Don't allow a revolving door where people can't leave. So you have to think about what's important to you. What are the most important things to you? And get good at those values. And in the book, we have some exercises where you can do your values, but you don't need to do the book to do the values. You just get online. There's a lot of different exercises that you can take online. But the book will have a section on how do you come up with your values. And values can change over time, by the way. It's okay. Values can change over time. You know, my values certainly have changed over time as my children have grown up, as I have more spare time. I like to tell people I'm semi-retired. I'm down to 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
That's actually not a joke. I was putting in 60-hour weeks easily for decades. And so, you know, gosh, I have an extra 20 hours a week now. What am I going to do with it? So I find other things that I can do to enjoy life. So it's okay if your values change. That's not a problem. But you got to get good with them. And you got to have your doorkeeper allow people in who have those congruent values. Now, here's where you can start when you're thinking about your values. Start with deal breakers. Deal breakers, that's no problem. Now, when I say to somebody, give me your top 7 values, they struggle. But if I say, give me a handful of your deal breakers, oh yeah, I got no problem with that. Boom, boom, boom. You know, honesty, lying is always one of the first. But what else? And you don't have to share. But you know, what are your deal breakers? Now, when I first spoke to Stuart, my co-author on this book, he was thinking about writing the book, but he hadn't started it. So I started, you know, talking to him. When he was telling me about this, he asked me, he says, what are your deal breakers? And I said, you know what, one of my deal breakers, I had never really thought about this until you asked me. One of my deal breakers in life is drama. People dripping in drama. We all have drama. I have drama. Trust me. I got drama. My kids definitely have drama. People have drama. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people that are constantly in drama, right? No matter what you talk to, when you say hi to them, how are you doing? They're like, oh my goodness, you wouldn't believe what happened to me today. And then what happened this week is because of what happened last week. And then, oh, did I tell you about my dogs and my cats? And whoa, we know the difference, right? Drama versus people that are dripping in drama. And I started thinking, I have several people in my life that are dripping in drama. And you know why they're there? I let them in. It was all my fault. One of them in particular is like, I know this person's got drama. I'm gonna hire them anyway. I'm gonna hire them anyway. Because they're really good at what they do, and I can deal with the drama, but then I didn't think it through, the unintended consequences of an idea. That person's employees had to deal with it, and all of their associates had to deal with it. Didn't think that through. And it was like, and it was a big project that was being worked on. Huge, massive, biggest project in the history of the company. And it was all blocked up because of this guy. As soon as I had this conversation with Stuart, I came back to headquarters here in Southern California, and I fired the guy. Did it that week. Project turned around within 30 days. Mm-hmm. Turned around within 30 days. You know your deal breakers. Be firm with your deal breakers. Don't step back on your deal breakers. Understand your values. Draw a line in the sand and say, from this day forth, I am here. Wait, your photo up. From this day forth, I am going to do my best. Well, first, I'm going to get good with what my values are. And then I am going to do my best to live those values. Nobody's perfect. I get it. You're going to do your best to live those values, and you're going to stand firm on the deal breakers. From this day forth, this is the life you're going to live. I wish somebody gave me this book when I was 17 years old, instead of me writing it. No, I've had a good life. I'm not complaining. It doesn't do any good to complain anyway, you know, right? Because half the people you tell don't care, and the other half are glad you're worse off than they are. So, I'm not complaining. I had a good life, but wow, if I'd have known some of this stuff when I was 17, I would have curated a different room. I would have. So, draw a line in the sand. And then, you got to train a second person. And that's your concierge. That's your concierge. I got to start thinking of personalities that fit with the concierge. What would fit with, who would make a great, somebody that everyone would know, that would, you know, is all of service. Jamie, there we go. Jamie Nearing. So you think of Jamie Nearing. Jamie is your concierge. Your concierge, unlike your doorkeeper keeps people out. The concierge deals with the people who are already in. They're helping you deal with the people who are already in your room. So put a face to that concierge. That's your conscious and subconscious mind. You've got to practice on how to work with those people, and I'm going to give you a few skills that you can use to train your concierge to work with those people. First thing that you need to do is to have your concierge think about the people in your life. Oh, by the way, I bet there are people in your life who are living in your room rent-free, right? They're there, you've not been able to get them out. One of the things that you want your concierge to do with people like this is think about whether the people in your life are an engine or an anchor. I mean, you can really get organized and go through your contact list and do this. But as you are talking to people and connecting with people, ask yourself, is this person an engine or an anchor in my life? If you don't know, ask a few questions, get a better feel for whether they're one or the other. But you got to know whether they're an engine or an anchor. An engine is someone who drives you forward in a positive way. They're there for you. They make you a better version of who you are. We all need engines in our life. I see BNI, I go to BNI chapters and I see people, it's a room full of engines. And they're all making each other better. I have gone to some chapter that was a room full of anchors. But what happens more often is there's one anchor in a room full of engines. That's where you got to put the concierge to work. In your room, as well as in a BNI group. You got to take a look. Is this person an engine or an anchor? And the anchors are the ones that are bringing you down. They're the ones that complain as though it's an Olympic event. It's not. I checked. There is no event for complaining, but people will complain as though it's an Olympic event. Or they'll tell you why you're all wrong and they're only telling you for your own good. They're anchors. And they're just weighing you down. And your concierge needs to recognize whether this person in your life is an engine or an anchor. Or worse yet, an anchor with an engine attached. They're bringing you down really bad. So your concierge needs to figure out which one they are. And when you've got that figured out, then you got to learn something really important. Maybe you're already good at this. I wasn't. I had to work on this. I'm going to quote Steve Jobs here. Steve Jobs said, focusing is about saying no.
Mm-hmm.
He once also said, I'm more proud of what Apple said no to than what Apple said yes to. Because saying no is a lot harder than saying yes. It's difficult to say no. I don't like saying no. I like to say yes. But you got to ask yourself, does this, by saying yes, does it live my values? Is it with somebody who's an engine? Is this going to help that person because the relationship is important to me? Is it going to help us because the relationship is important to me? Is this good for me as well as everyone? I mean, you got to ask you these questions. And you got to figure out whether you should say yes or say no to doing something. And so I'm going to give you a few techniques to use to say no without sounding like a jerk or worse. By the way, this is the #1 requested topic on podcasts and radio shows. When I do an interview, the #1 topic is how do you say no without sounding like a jerk or worse. So here's my favorite one. Ready? If I said yes to you, I'm afraid I'd let you down. And here's why. And you know what I love about that? I don't even use the word no. You don't even use the word no on that. If I said yes to you, I'm afraid I'd let you down. And here's why, I'm going to be honest. And most people are good with that when you tell them the truth, and especially if you tell them in a gentle way like that. Here's the second one, and you can use it in conjunction with the first. You can use it in conjunction with the first. I have the perfect person for you to work with. Let me refer you to somebody who I think could do a great job helping you with this, or dealing with this question, or addressing this issue. Refer someone. You don't even have to say no, he's there. We're good at this. This is what we do in BNI. Refer someone. And so I will often, when someone comes to me on something, I'll say, look, I'm not good at that. I have somebody that I'd love to refer you to. And then you refer someone. Another one is give a different alternative. We had this this is a short story in the book. A nonprofit organization went to a caterer and asked the caterer if they'd be willing to donate the catering for not a big nonprofit event, but it was a small, reasonably small nonprofit event. And the caterer couldn't afford it. They really couldn't. And rather than say no, they said, you know, it'd be difficult for me to do the whole event. Can I give a gift certificate for a dinner? And they also had a restaurant, for a dinner at my restaurant. And the nonprofit was like, yeah, you'd be willing to do that? Yes, I'd be willing to do that. Great, here you go. And so he gave an alternative. Another thing is, it's okay to, look, no can be a one-word sentence.
Uh-huh.
It can be. Who gave me the amen? You gave me the amen. It can be. It can be a one-word sentence. I don't usually use it as a one-word sentence. I'll say no thank you, no thanks. But there's nothing wrong with saying no, and there's nothing wrong with standing in that no. I see people get nudged and nudged and nudged, and they change their mind. I mean, one of my favorite ones is food. People want to feed me, and they'll feed me stuff I don't eat. I don't eat processed sugars. I gave it up after a cancer diagnosis. And so I don't eat processed sugar, and people all the time, oh, you gotta try this cake, oh, this is fantastic, oh, you're just a bite. No thanks, I don't eat sugar. No, it's one bite's not gonna hurt you, it's okay, just one bite. It's like, really? Just one bite? They'll say, yeah, just one bite. I'll say, great, you eat it. I don't eat sugar. It's okay to say no. And if you don't learn how to say no, you're not going to be able to manage your room. And your doorkeeper is going to have a hard time keeping the people out that you don't want in. So learn how to say no. We talk a lot more about this in the book. Someone might be in your room, but their baggage has to stay out. Their baggage has to stay out. A great example, in the first edition, our co-author, Rick, his mother, she was really toxic. She had a lot of emotional issues, some legitimate mental issues, and she was very hostile, very difficult. And he would call her every Sunday, good son, he'd call her, and she would rant and just go on and rant about his brothers and sisters. He had 6 brothers and sisters. She was the mother of all 7. And she would just go on these rants. And he finally was thinking about this concept of the room and the baggage. And he said to her one day, he came to the conclusion, he said to her, Mom, he said, starting next week, if you start talking about, he named off his brothers and sisters, if you start talking about them in a creative way, I'm just going to stop you and say, Mom, it was really good talking to you. I love you very much. I'll talk to you next week. Bye. And I'm going to hang up. And she was like, yeah, whatever. Fine. So the next week rolls around. 3 minutes into the conversation, she goes off on a rant on one of his brothers. He said, Mom, it was really good talking to you. I love you so much. I will call you again next week. Bye. And he hung up. The following week, he calls his mother. It was about 15 minutes into the conversation. And she goes off onto a rant. And he said, Mom, it was really great talking to you. I love you very much. I'll talk to you again next week. Bye. And hung up. The week after that, and for the next 2 years, he said, I had the best conversations I've ever had with my mother in my entire life. He said it wasn't all wine and roses. She had issues, she had challenges. We talked about those, but it wasn't toxic. It wasn't angry, toxic discussions about other people. It was, she was getting old. There was a lot of discussion about her health. And that was fine. He was okay with having those conversations. And he said, I had the deepest, best conversations I've ever had with my mother because I drew a line in the sand and I said, no, that baggage has to stay out. Now, he did it in a very friendly way. My other co-author, Stuart, he is not so friendly. And he always blames it on being from Australia. I keep telling him, that's not the reason, right? And his mother-in-law always would complain about what he ate. Stuart, why are you eating that and drinking that? You need to drink less. Now, Stuart's 85. His mother-in-law was 96. Okay? And she's telling him, he's 85, right? And he still has a pilot's license, not while he's drinking, obviously. But I mean, he's sharp, he's really sharp. And so she's telling him, you shouldn't drink so much, you shouldn't eat like that, you shouldn't do. And he said to her one day, he said, Alice, look, if you continue to try to, tell me what to eat and drink, we're not gonna have the conversations anymore. Yeah, sure, okay, fine. So the next conversation, she goes off on him on what he's eating, and he just goes, click, hangs up. She calls him back. She said, Stuart Emery, did you hang up on me? And Stuart goes, no, Alice, I'd never hang up on you. My doorkeeper did. My doorkeeper did. And of course, she knew the book, so she's like, oh, Stuart. Blah, 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 blah. So I tend to do it more politely, at least I try to, than Stuart the Australian. But in either way, don't allow the baggage in your room. Draw a line in the sand. It's not okay. I had a BNI member who read the first edition, and she emailed me with this story that I want to share with you. This true story, BNI member. She said we would have family gatherings. The family would get together for the holidays. It was really nice, and everyone, loved seeing each other. But there was one family member. Isn't there always one?
Yes.
And she said, this woman, it was a cousin of hers, would come to the family gathering, big family gatherings, 20, 30, 40 people, big family gatherings. She said she'd come to the family gathering and throw in a verbal hand grenade. It could be politics, it could be religion, it could be anything. But in the middle of this, she'd throw in this verbal hand grenade. And people would be upset, and there'd be yelling and crying, and people would walk out, and it was often a mess. And they had conversations with her. They told her, she was going to stop getting invited. And none of it worked. So she said, let's try this. And she got the whole family together except for her. And they said, here's what we do. When she throws in the next verbal hand grenade, anyone around her just look at her and go, oh, okay. And then just get right back to her conversation. Do not engage. Do you understand? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Do not engage, right? Right, okay, don't engage. And for those, we have some people on Zoom. For the people on Zoom, do not engage. Go to watch. So they all agreed. Sure enough, next family gathering, she's right there, she lobs in a grenade. Boom! Everyone around her goes, oh, okay. And right back to the conversation, and she's just stood there dumbfounded. Nobody interacted. And she came back to the next one and did it again. Nobody interacted. She missed the next 3 or 4. And when she came back, she behaved. She said, it was amazing. And she said, look, I'm not a psychologist. I can't figure out why she got something out of getting people angry, but she did. And when we no longer got angry, she stopped doing it. People may be in your room, but their baggage has to stay out. And there are ways of doing it, but you got to draw a line in the sand, and you got to be really, really firm. And there are other things. Now, I said I wasn't going to talk a lot about BNI, but this one is in the second edition. It's not in the first edition, but this was because of BNI, addition by subtraction. One of the ways, if you have a chapter that is struggling, you want it to grow, or if you have a chapter that's great and you want it to grow more, cut it back. Addition by subtraction. Who do you cut? I had a member years ago say, you cut the minnows. Minnows. Members in name only. You cut the members in name only. You bring in somebody who's all in, really wants to participate. You cut the anchors. That's what you cut from the chapter. You cut the anchors. You cut the minnows. You want it to grow, cut it back. I learned this from my wife, my late wife. We had all these rose bushes around our house. I came home one day, they were all cut way back.
Yep.
I'm like, why did you cut all the rose bushes? She said, well, if you want the rose bushes to grow, you cut them back, and then they bloom big. And I thought, oh, that's a BNI chapter. Ended up getting, I got a podcast on that. I did a podcast on it. And so sometimes if you really want the life of your dreams, cut back. Cut the anchors. They're still going to be in your head, but they can be out of your life. multiplication by subtraction. Remember this one in BNI, it really is important. You want people who are engines in your chapter.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to give you 2 more techniques for your concierge. 1, benign neglect. Benign neglect is where just over time you neglect the relationship and it just kind of dissipates over time.
Yes.
Friends you had in college, good friends, people you liked. High school, people you liked, people you used to work with. But over time, you just kind of lose connection. This, I tell you, this is one of the things that actually is good about Facebook, is it does allow you to at least easier stay in touch with people. One of the people I went to college with was university at NSC was Mac McClure, the deputy director of the Federal Aviation Administration. He was in my classes. You don't just pick up the phone and call the deputy director of the FAA, right? So, I mean, something like Facebook would have been great to be able to stay in touch with people. So, what you want to do, so benign neglect works even when you're not trying. Now, do it with a plan. If you got somebody that you want to gradually move away from, and you know that if you just cut off the relationship, now you're gonna have a big brouhaha and talk about it. My late wife had a friend that the friend just did something that she realized this is way outside my value set, way outside my value set, and so she applied benign neglect to the relationship. And over time, over about a 2-year period where she didn't get together with us often or call as often or text back as often. And after a couple of years, the person said, we don't connect like we used to connect. Why is that? And my wife was absolutely convinced that if she'd just broken off the relationship as soon as that thing happened, it would have been a big battle. But 2 years later, it was much softer.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I'm happy to tell you why. Let's get together over coffee and talk. And they did. And it was sad, but it wasn't mad.
Mm-hmm.
And through benign neglect was able to transition that person's baggage out. And you do that, by the way, through homeopathic doses. Homeopathic doses. The minimum dose necessary to do so. Like if you're going into town where somebody you don't want to really stay connected with lives, you send them an email in the evening, the night before you're there, and you say, I'm going to be in town tomorrow. I'd love to get together for a coffee or a tea between 1 and 2 o'clock. I'm available. Well, sometimes they won't even read the email. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry I missed you. And if they do, they know they have a window of 1 to 2 o'clock. And so homeopathic doses. Train your concierge. Train Jamie on how to do this. So these are some of the things that you need to understand in order to have the room you want, the life you want. So I'm going to hit one more topic, and then I'm going to open it up for Q&A. And by the way, I'm happy to answer any question you've got. The only dumb question is the unasked question. You can ask me a question about BNI, you can ask me a question about scaling a business. If you've got a personal question, I'm happy to answer those. But this is my favorite part of the book that I'm getting into now. And that is the secret to balance. How do you create balance in life? I got the answer. Would you like to hear it?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah.
Don't.
Forget about balance, you'll never have it. Now, I always get at least one reaction out of the audience I love. This is Bill. Bill went. Sometimes I'll get a groan. I don't usually get that. That was great. All right. But I got good news. It's not all bad news. Well, let's finish on the bad news here before I go to the good news. Balance. We think of balance and we think of, well, my personal life has to be in balance with my professional life, which has to be in balance with my spiritual life and my health, and it's got to all be perfectly in balance. Hey, life is more of a juggling act than it is a balancing act. We are juggling stuff constantly. especially entrepreneurs, salespeople, business professionals. We're juggling so many things, it's hard to keep up with all the stuff that's up in the air. So the whole idea of balance to me is setting you up to fail. And so, it's not all bad news. Here's the good news. Well, I don't think you can have a life of balance. I do believe you can have a life of harmony. This is more than semantics. Even the graphic for harmony, the yin and the yang, are out of balance if you separate them. It's possible to have a life of harmony, not balance. Look, I traveled so much as my kids were growing up. I was telling somebody here, I have 2.4 million miles on American Airlines alone. Just American. By the way, I've used most of those miles, but that's what I've flown. And I remember sitting down with my son one day here in Southern California. We were living in Claremont, and we're at big screen TV. We're playing Halo. He's kicking my butt, just kicking my butt, and we're leveling up. And I said to him, I said, "Hey, buddy, now he's 29 now. He was 17. I said, hey, buddy, was I around enough for you while you were growing up?" And he looked at me and he said, "What?" I said, "Was I around enough for you?" He's like, "You're around all the time." I said, "Well, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm actually out of town every other week. You know, sometimes 3 days, sometimes a week. I'm gone." He said, yeah, I know, you travel. But I don't know, it's like when you're here, you're here. Can we get back to the game now? And that leads me to one of the first techniques that you need to apply. And if you apply this, it makes a huge difference in your life. And that is, be here now. This is one of the big secrets to harmony. Wherever you are, be there. Don't be at work thinking about the fact that you didn't spend enough time with the family last night. Don't be with the family thinking about that project that's got to be done. Wherever you are, be there. Be fully, completely present to that moment, to that situation, to those people. Now, look, nobody's perfect at this. I'm not perfect at it. But I worked really hard throughout my life to be here now. One of the ways I did, I told you, working the 60-hour weeks, oftentimes what I would do is I put my wife and I put the kids to bed, I'd put the wife to bed, and then I'd go back into my office and work for 4 hours. In the evening, middle of the night. First book I wrote between midnight and 6 a.m. once a week. Maybe 4 a.m. once a week. I'd write most of the night and then catch a few hours of sleep. I don't recommend that one. It's not particularly good for your health. But that's how I was present for my family and not sitting in my office writing while they wrote. So be here now. It's one of the really important things in creating a life of harmony. I did not live a balanced life, but I have lived a life of harmony. Okay, this is an interesting one. You know how people say you can have it all? You can have it all. They're lying to you. I know you could pick some of the big names that say you can have it all. I know some of them. They don't. They say you can, but they don't have it. They may have a great business, but their marriage is a shambles. I know some pretty well-known relationship experts who are divorced like 4 times. So the truth is, you cannot have it all. I really don't believe you can have it all. But I'll tell you what you can have. You can have all the things that you value. That's why you got to go back to your values. Mm-hmm. It's all about values. So these graphics, this is what these graphics are. These graphics mean let go of the things that aren't important to you. I mean, really important to you, that don't resonate with who you are as a human, how you want to show up in the world, let them go if they don't resonate with you. And then hold on for dear life to those things that are really important to you. You have to both let go and hold on. Both. And if you get good at that, the better you get at that, the more you live a life of harmony versus balance. Margins. Like in a book, there's margins. Okay? You have to have a life with margins. Margins where you just kind of do whatever you want to do. Time for yourself. Now, sometimes, you have little kids, maybe that time for yourself is an hour. Okay? But you got to have it. I have a friend up in Big Bear. I used to have a place in Big Bear. The Indians came up there many times. And he was so proud. I haven't been on a vacation in 7 years. I said, you're an idiot. we were close friends. I'm like, do you know what I did for him? He was a good friend. He worked for me up there. I said, man, I'll get you a place, long weekend, three nights, Palm Springs. You won't have to go far. Take 3 nights off. I'll pay for it. He didn't do it. He didn't do it. Because he had to be up there. I'm like, man, you don't have to be up there all the time. There's no such thing as, a dire emergency for the house. I mean, you got assistants that can help. You can do it. So you have to create margins. For me, one of my margins was mental health day. That's what they call it, mental health day. Once a week. Once a week, mental health day, it's like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to putter around the house. I'm going to sit in the hot tub. I'm going to have some great wine. I might watch Netflix. I'm going to
Order every episode 150.
Yes, I watch television. I enjoy television. It's mindless pablum. It's fun. It's interesting. It can be entertaining. And so those are my margins. I might go out on my boat. I might do something like that. But it's going to be stuff that brings me peace. You have to have opportunities to create margins for your life, peace for your life. With my wife and I, when they were kids, we tag teamed. I would send her to the spa for the afternoon, go get fluffed and folded, come back, and then she'd give me time. So you have to have margins. And in order to accomplish these kinds of things, you need to have mentors. They need to be people that or they could be virtual mentors. I heard, I must have heard 7 or 8 of you say you listen to the podcast. Thank you
exactly.
very much. I appreciate you listening to that podcast. And hopefully some of the people on that, possibly me, can be a mentor, a virtual mentor. Can give you ideas on how to be successful in business, ideas on how to live your life. Both a real mentor and a virtual mentor are both very, very important. And what's really awesome is that sometimes you get to meet your virtual mentors. Michael Gerber was a virtual mentor for me for many years. Now he's a close friend. Known Michael for more than a decade. Jack Canfield was a virtual, Chicken Soup for the Soul, was a virtual mentor for years. Now he's a good friend. I see Jack at least 2 or 3 times a year. He put me in the second edition of Success Principles. So there's a whole thing in there about VCP that I wrote. So mentors, sometimes what's really awesome is you get to meet some of the mentors, virtual mentors that you've worked with. But you got to have mentors. You can't do this alone. You got to be sharpening your axe. You got to be doing a better job. So one of the reasons why lifelong learning is one of our core values. You got to continually be lifelong learning. I'm a real believer. Before I do the last piece, and this is in the book. Last piece of the book. You've got to work in your flame and not in your wax. Find your flame. Find the things that you're most excited about in life. When you're working in your flame, you're on fire. You're excited. People can hear it in your voice. They can see it in the way you behave. When you're working in your wax, it just takes all your energy away. You just hate it. And people can see that in your voice, and they can hear that in the way you behave. And so sometimes that means you gotta hire people to do your wax. I remember the first person I hired to do my wax was a bookkeeper. I mean, I know my way around a financial spreadsheet. I just hate it. And I hate, creating it. So I hired a bookkeeper. And I remember, it's like the first month there, She came to me and she said, I balanced the books. They were 5 cents off. It took me a couple of hours, but I balanced the books. I said, well done. I told a friend of mine that, and he said, did you reprimand her? And I said, why would I reprimand her? Because it took her 2 hours to find 5 cents.
No.
I said, no. I did not. I congratulated her. I said, well done. I said, look, for me, 5 cents, I'd have let it go. $5, I'd have let it go. For me, if it had been $50, I'd have said, yeah, we'll figure it out. She wouldn't have gone home at night. She'd have stayed there until she found the $50.
It's the system.
So no, I didn't reprimand her. I said, job well done. Why? Because clearly that was her flame. And you want somebody who's working their flame, especially if that's your wax.
Yep.
So find your flame, not your wax, and work in your flame. I'm a real believer. We're talking about things that you want to attract into your life. Right? I mean, this whole presentation is all about what you want in your room. I'm a big believer in the law of attraction. Here's the one thing that the movie and the book didn't talk about, and the concept often leaves out, is that the word action is part of the word attraction. So you can attract all this stuff you want, but if you don't take action, it doesn't come. It's not going to matter. The older I get, the less I believe in words, and the more I believe in behaviors. And words have power. I grant you that words are powerful. And behaviors are even more powerful. Because I've seen men who told people, you should do this and you should do that, and they're caught doing the very thing that they're telling people not to do. Right? Behaviors are even more important than words. I'm going to tell you a story and we're going to open it up for questions. This was 33 years ago, 34 years ago. I was in Maui. I was out in the ocean. I'm out in the ocean and I feel this sting across my chest. And I looked down, I didn't see anything. So I just took my arm, I went like this, and there's tentacles hanging from my arm. And I'm like, wow, that's not good. And so I follow the tentacles, and I see about where clay is there, okay? I'm like right here, and I see roughly where clay is, I see this. That is a Portuguese man-o-war jellyfish. Venomous, poisonous, one or the other. There's some difference, I don't know what it is. So I see that, and I of course, I've got streak marks right across my chest. And of course, right across my wrist. And so I swim ashore, and there's a cabana boy. And I say to the cabana boy, hey, I think I just got hit by a Portuguese man-o-war jellyfish. And he looks at my chest and goes, yeah. looks like a jellyfish. So what do I do? He said, are you breathing okay? Yeah. Are you feeling dizzy? No. Do you have any chest pains? No. He said, okay, no big deal. Just go all the way, just go all the way to the lobby, go in the lobby, get to the hall, go down the hall, there's a little market. What you want to do is you want to go into the market, you want to buy some Adolph's meat tenderizer and some vinegar, and you want to powder up your chest, and you want to pour the vinegar in, and you just want to rub it all in like that. And I'm like, really? He says, yeah, that's what you want to do. I'm like, okay, thanks. So then I'm walking up towards the front, and there's a little restaurant, outdoor restaurant. And there's another gentleman at the outdoor restaurant. It looks like he was in about his 20s. And so I say to the second gentleman, I say, hey, excuse me, I hope you don't mind, but I think I just got hit by a jellyfish, Portuguese man-o-war jellyfish. He looks at my chest and he goes, yeah, that's a jellyfish. I said, well, what do I do? He said, are you having a hard time breathing? No. Are you feeling dizzy? No. Do you have any chest pains? No. He said, okay, no problem. Just go down the line, go to the front desk, turn left, there's a little market, go in the market, buy some Adolph's meat tenderizer and some vinegar, powder up your chest, pour the vinegar on, just rub it all in. I'm thinking, what do these guys do? Have a staff meeting? How do we goof on the tourists? You know, I saw cameras around. I figured maybe that's not going to show up on television. And I was like 45 pounds heavier than, so they'd get a kick out of that. So now I walk up to the front desk. There's the manager. He's got some gray hair. He's not going to be in on this thing, right? So I say to the manager, I say, hey, look, I think I just got hit by a Portuguese man of war, jellyfish. He said, yep. So what do? He said, well, first, are you having a hard time breathing? No. Are you feeling dizzy? No. Do you have chest pains? No. He said, okay, no big deal. Just go on down the market. Go into the market, get some Adolph's meat tenderizer, powder up your chest, pour some vinegar on, just rub it all in, you'll be fine. I'm like, okay, fine, I give. I'll wave at the camera, I'll like zoom here. I'll wave at the camera, I'll say hi, let them have their fun. I'm gonna go do it, because it hurts. It hurts. It's stinging like crazy. Across my chest and my arm. So I go in, I found the vinegar. They were out of Adolph's. Oh, no. At least I couldn't find it. And then I'm kind of having a hard time breathing. I was feeling a little bit dizzy, leaning against the shelves. And then it was like someone was pushing against my chest a little bit. And I'm thinking, okay, this isn't good. And so I walked out. I'm holding the wall as I walk out. And I get out to the lobby. And by the time I get to the lobby, it's like someone's sitting on my chest. Mm-hmm. And I get to the lobby, there's the manager, and I said, the breathing in the, and I fell on the lobby floor, right there in the middle of the lobby as people are checking in. I mean, people are like bringing their luggage and stuff. I'm laying on the floor, I'm in agony. There's this little girl who's standing there and she said, look, Mommy, there's a man on the floor. And the mother goes, that's what happens when you do drugs. Jellyfish. So I'm laying there, and really within just a couple of minutes, the paramedics are there. Paramedics, they come in, they've got boxes, and I'm thinking, oh man, this is like, clear, boom. They open up the box, and in it, they have and some vinegar in a spray bottle. They powder up my chest. They go, and there's these guys massaging my chest in the lobby. And it reversed almost instantly. The chest pains reversed almost instantly to just be like a little pressure. And I didn't feel quite so dizzy. I was able to sit up. I was able to breathe just fine. And literally a minute or less just turned it around. Turns out that the Adolph's has an enzyme in it that basically kills the hooks are still in your skin and they're still pumping venom, poison into you. And it just neutralizes it all. And the vinegar is a catalyst that pushes it into your bloodstream. And so it turns around really, really quickly. Now, why did I tell you this story? There's really a good reason for it. I had 3 opportunities to do what I was told. It could be in a movie. Everybody's 16, right? But then the waiter in his 20s. Finally, it wasn't until I got to the manager. He was like, okay, I give. Before I went and tried to do what the first guy told me to do. Had I done what the first guy told me to do right away, I wouldn't have had this big paramedics bill. So here's why I'm telling you this. How many times have people told you, you've got to be careful about the people that you let in your life? or you don't want to be around those people. Come on, Mom told us this. When we were kids, I don't want you hanging out with that kid. He's a bad influence. Right? We've heard this over and over again. Don't wait any longer. Take control of your life. Take control of who's in your room. Create that doorkeeper. Create that concierge. Control your life and curate your room. You are the curator of your life. Wherever you are in life. It's like, okay, the past is the past. I've learned a lot. Now I am going to learn how to proceed into the future because I've got the tools to help me do it. Who's in your room is the question that can change your life. Okay, with that, let me open it up for questions.